Fellah, Chief Analyst at Maravedis. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Future-Proof Your Properties with Premium Wi-Fi in Luxury Living. This event is sponsored by Natural Wireless, and we have a great program for you today. So we have a great list of industry leaders and a great person to moderate the panel. So along my side will be Chris Nugent, who is the MEP manager. He's probably fixing a last-minute incident in the building right now, but he'll be joining us soon from the Lions Group in NYC. We have Matthew Silver, who's Director of Residential Properties, discuss his views on what property owners need and expect. And we have Chris. Chris, welcome.
Right.
So before we get started, just some housekeeping items. We always get the question, yes, the event is being recorded and you will get the link to the YouTube video in the next 24 hours. The handouts will be made available as well within the same email. And today's event will be mostly a panel discussion, though we'll have a couple of presentations by myself and Matt about some of the views we have around the fundamentals driving the need for connectivity in multifamily. We encourage you to submit your questions throughout the event because we want this to be a two-way participative event as opposed to a one-way. Okay. All right. So just in terms of the agenda today, as I mentioned, be speaking about some real estate trends and why we believe that those fundamental trends in real estate have impacts on the way property owners see connectivity requirements. We look at some of the lifestyle changes that are also driving the new residents' expectations for connectivity and how all of these fundamental changes have now affected the way property owners see connectivity as a necessity and why it has become fundamental to their ROI drivers. And then, of course, we'll move on to the expert panel and Q&A. Just a few words about Maravedis. For those who are not familiar with us, we've been around since 2002. We focus primarily on wireless infrastructure, not limited ourselves to Wi-Fi, but also private LTE, IoT, and really a lot of the work we do is around convergence of Wi-Fi and cellular. We have been partnered with the WBA as the industry analyst for the last 10 years. Producing the industry report. And for those that are familiar with the WBA, it's an organization that really strives at producing the best practices for service providers in terms of using different radio access technologies. In terms of the output we produce, it's a mix of syndicated market reports, which is, a lot of generic reports, as well as a lot of custom research, like the ones we do for the WBA. In terms of coverage, we look at all the top verticals, including multifamily, but not limited to that. That includes hospitality, enterprises, smart cities, etc. And those are some of the segments we look also at as part of the WBA industry report. Some services we provide include types of activities like we do today, which is really aimed at thought leadership and lead generation. We also love doing marketing consulting, look at your positioning, your sales pitch, and help you with the messaging. Enough about us. So let's dive into the real estate trends. What's going on there? When you look at the evolution between 2014 and 2022, multi-family property values have very skyrocketed in the US. So they experienced significant growth, and that has an impact on what generation Y and Z. Y, are those that have been born between 81 and 96. I always get confused between Y and Z, but essentially the young folks, right? Generation Z are the ones born before 2010. They're more likely to rent than buy because of the pressures from real estate cost. Some numbers, 75% of Gen Z are renters, and a lot of those situation is really provoked by financial constraints. They've been burdened by student loans, higher living costs. In fact, millennials frequently choose renting as the only financially manageable option. A third of Generation Z individuals consider homeownership financially unattainable, leading to a preference or necessity to rent. The predictions also indicate that Generation Z will become the largest group of renters in the US by 2030. And finally, Gen Z represents 68% of renters spend more than 30% of their income. So they're really strapped financially. The result also of that is that they tend to live in multifamily properties rather than single homes. 66% of Gen Y and Z together represent the portion of multifamily renters in the US. So 2/3 of the renters in the US are Gen Y and Z. About 60% of millennials and 75% of Gen Z actively consider apartments when seeking housing. So again, really a strong preference for multifamily. On the other coin, between 2014 and 2024, the average size of newly constructed apartments in the US has experienced a general decline. The average size has gone from 1,000 square feet to 887. So essentially, rental properties are becoming smaller and their amenities are becoming wider. So people spend less time within their units and more time in common areas such as the pool, the gym, co-working space, outdoor spaces as well. So that is it as far as real estate trends. Now, at the same time, we see lifestyle changes occurring in the US. The average number of connected devices in an average US household has increased tremendously to now almost 20 devices per household. This really indicates a strong adoption of connected devices such as smart home devices, IoT thermostats, TV, gaming station, etc. At the same time, the demand for streaming is representing most of in fact, 54% of the internet traffic, according to Sandvine. So most people have a lot of devices, and those devices are used essentially for streaming, which creates a lot of pressure on the networks. Another fundamental trend is that these new generations are always connected. In fact, an interesting data from MDU, which is the National Multifamily Housing Council, indicates that 90% of participants in the survey consider that move-in ready high-speed internet access is critical in their decision to rent. So they want to be able to connect immediately after they move in. And 70% believe that the pre-Wi-Fi installed enhances the attractiveness of their apartments. So those are strong implications for property holders. Obviously, we can't deny that despite some organizations asking their employees to return to work in the office, work from home is still there. And it's here to stay in the long term, at least partially, even if it's 1 day per week. And those also have implications because residents need high quality connectivity to be able to perform their job at home or to do online learning. We also see that residents are increasingly requiring PropTech. What is PropTech? It's property technologies. We're talking here about everything from smart TVs to security solutions such as video doorbells, security cameras, climate control systems like thermostat and air conditioner, smart bulbs and plugs, and even in common areas such as health and fitness devices, anything that's really going to support their lifestyles to be more productive and be able to enjoy their properties and their lifestyles. So based on these fundamentals, what do residents want? This is in no way an exhaustive list, just a few examples. So we discussed move-in ready. So that means one of the benefits of move-in ready is there's no waiting, there's no truck rolls, there is no calling, there's no waiting. It's immediate. And that is only possible if you have pre-installed Wi-Fi, given most people experience internet through Wi-Fi. But the second aspect we discussed is the connected lifestyle. What does it mean? To have a connected lifestyle, you need guaranteed speeds, you need quality of service, you need low latency. And so to enable that, you need somehow a dedicated internet access in the property. Another aspect of what residents want is being always connected. We mentioned that, and that means being able to roam across the property seamlessly and not lose that connectivity, not lose that Wi-Fi call from the elevator to the unit back to the gym. And to do that, you need really a property-wide internet by default that's professionally installed and professionally managed. They don't want to have any headaches. If there is an outage of the internet, they need a fast problem resolution. They have to have a 24 hours, very quick resolution. And to do that, they really need a service provider that has best-in-class customer support. Residents want other things. They want a predictable pricing. They want a low-cost internet. They want many other things. And I'm not going to go through every aspect of that. We can discuss that during the panel. But essentially, that's what we see as part of the fundamental shifts in the industry. Having said that, now I want to turn it down to Matt, who's going to provide the perspective of property owners and what those findings have for what property owners need to implement. Over to you, Matt.